one most relatable thing I've ever heard about a Cardassian is that they would be embarrassed to die in their underwear. I'd be embarrassed to die in my underwear. Here on V'ger Please. A vile visit to Bajoran. My name is Joseph.
Hey, out of curiosity, is there any way I could go back in the prison camp? I'm your co-host, Peter.
Before we talk about any kind of camps or prisoners who might be broken out of them today, because we do love prison breaks on V'ger Please. That's something we really like.
You know who else really likes it? Star Trek. Voyager, Enterprise.
We didn't really count the prison breaks of season 1 of Deep Space Nine contemporaneously. This is before our rip. We're recording this before our rip, so that one's got to go on the notepad. How many prison breaks were there? How many times did people get a steal a march on Odo? Gonna keep a running tab. But we're here, season 2 of Deep Space Nine already. It went by so fast, man. That was the fastest season of Star Trek by my reckoning that we've done, and we did season 4 of Enterprise recently. That was also only 20 episodes, but it just felt like we spent so much more time on that.
That felt like a lot more time because there was that huge meta plot, and it was just one after another, and it was just nailing hits, you know. Mm-hmm. This one wasn't running quite as hot as season 4 because season 4 Enterprise
we did use multiple episodes to cover some of those episodes. They were so thick.
I forgot about
Cold
that.
Station 12.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, that was so good.
And what's great is if you're listening to this, odds are you probably listened to us through Voyager and then skipped Enterprise.
Yeah. You're like,
and now you're back.
Fuck, stop talking about that shit.
Or you're coming in fresh for Deep Space Nine. We're happy to have you. We did review Enterprise. No one will ever listen to it, but
yeah.
I don't know if
the hard way.
Go to prison or something and need a podcast.
McMurdo Station. We did find out that if you go get stationed in Antarctica, that our podcast actually is a wonderful thing to bring and apparently show all of your friends that you're working with down there. So shout out to anybody from the McMurdo Station that is still listening to V'ger Please. We appreciate you.
I went to McMurdo Station. All I got was to listen to this crappy podcast.
The most popular podcast in all of Antarctica.
What was the other one?
We had a claim to it, at least.
Where was the other place in Europe?
Oh, yeah. There was some random... Was it Czech Republic?
Lithuania?
I don't remember. Someone will remember. But we're on season 2 of DS9 now. And I wanted to talk a little meta of Deep Space Nine since season 2 is a big step towards the show Deep Space Nine was trying to figure out what it would be. We talked about that when we were reviewing In the Hands of the Prophets and Duet, and kind of got to the end of the season where they got much more dramatic.
I'm excited to do the rip, though. I wonder what great stuff we discussed, because season 1 overall, I would say the best season of Star Trek we've reviewed easily.
Oh, wow. Really? All of Voyager? Nothing.
The season 1 Voyager versus season 1 DS9?
Okay. If you're comparing season 1s.
Season 1 yes. Picard versus season 1 DS9?
Okay, easy clap Deep Space Nine. Absolutely. But I thought you were making a statement of that season was better. Like, whoa. No.
I mean, for something that you came in on, that was incredibly great footing that rapidly established itself. So, you come in with a season 1 that felt pretty good, if not pretty great, because you have some badass character actors in there.
Oh, yeah.
And to say, all right, well, that was good, but we can do better. What are the conversations that are having on summer break? Because as I'm watching this episode, the first thing I did was say to myself, like, cool, there's Rom. And it's very clear that there was a conversation at a dinner table about, like, what do we do with this fucking guy?
Mm-hmm. Oh, there was a ton of conversations about what is the direction of these characters. What are we doing? You can tell in how much there was so much more sharpness in everything that was happening here, from everything from the writing to the acting to like camera position, shot composition. I'll get to that when we have a particular moment that really stood out. But this is season 2. It comes not only does it start on a banger episode, spoiler alert, the homecoming rules, but it's a kind of a mission statement, is to say, we figured it out. at the end of season 1, and we're at the peak of Trek's powers. That's the meta. This is running at the same time as TNG season 7. Trek has never been more popular, and it is literally at this moment. Okay?
And never will be.
Unfortunately, probably so. So we're swinging for the fences with this now, right? Like, okay, we know Trek is good enough to get dramatic Emmy nominations. It's a good dramatic television show. Let's talk about the episode then, because I think we can get into some of the names, or at least one specific name that has a lot to do with that.
Unfortunately, yeah. The Homecoming, Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 1, first aired September 26, 1993. Arc, this is the I don't even want to read that. It's a spoiler.
Unfortunately, you have, but yes.
Bajoran coup d'etat. Teleplay by Ira Stephen Bear, who we've just covered. Story by Ira Stephen Bear, and unfortunately, a well-known name around this podcast, Jerry Taylor, directed by Rick Colby.
We don't think much of Jerry Taylor's tenure as the showrunner on Voyager, but I think that we enjoyed the first 2 seasons of Voyager and what she added to it to improve the female characters on the show specifically, to give it a different kind of look.
Stands out like a lighthouse, really. You know, having gone through Enterprise, there's nothing I'd really say that we're really bordering on like exploitation here in Deep Space Nine so far.
No, not at all.
But you take the female characters out of Voyager and you put them against Deep Space Nine, and I would say that with the exception of Kira Nerys, who is just solid fucking gold, there's no other female characters I think that are really popping off hard in Deep Space Nine. I will say that Dax in this episode comes off much stronger than she did in season 1.
Yeah, and that was something we mentioned when we started talking about season 1. At least Terry Farrell hasn't figured it out.
The writers haven't figured it out.
They haven't figured it out. So Dax isn't really a settled character, and she doesn't appear much in this episode, but they do finally establish who she's going to be, which is kind of a roguish, charming counselor to Sisko, and an officer that is, competent and capable, but not someone who's career focused in the same way.
Yes.
She's a bit of an imp.
Yes, she's got a taste of Mariner about. Maybe I should say maybe they borrowed that from her into Mariner, which is, I want to be a powerhouse, and I am not interested. Not only am I not interested in climbing the ladder, I'm interested in potentially staying put.
Precisely.
And I think that's something important that you need to establish with these long-lived, essentially eternal characters, Data, these Trill, whatever else, where it's like Vulcans. Why is every Vulcan in Starfleet not a captain? Because they're happy where they're at. They don't care about money. There's no money there.
Right.
They want to do the science. They don't care about the Burgundy. So jumping back into Jerry Taylor here real quick. When my wife said, oh, I see some writer for Star Trek died, and I said, oh, please, God, don't be Terry Matalas, even though he's writing for Star Wars now. But she linked me, and it was Jerry Taylor. I was like, oh, fuck, man. Like, she did Seska and Lon Suter real dirty. And I hope when she's up there talking to St. Peter at the pearly gates that his thumb is over the part where she perma-killed those guys, because otherwise that's going to be a bad situation for her.
And she died.
Stain out the soul.
She died very recently, didn't she? Like the last couple of days. Today?
I thought it was today, wasn't it?
I might have seen it yesterday, but you're right. That did just happen. Rest in peace to Jerry Taylor. As much as your murderous run as the showrunner on Voyager was not something that you and I were huge fans of, we do appreciate what you brought to the show. Janeway was a much better character when you were in charge of it. So was B'Elanna. Yeah. And we noticed. And your touch on this episode helped too. But the other name on this, Ira Stephen Bear.
Hold on, real quick. For what she brought to Voyager, and who she brought to Voyager. We've got a huge female listener base.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always happy to have it. I think that's because we started with Voyager, and I think it was Jerry Taylor throwing the ladies out there a real lifeline of like, here's this thing you can watch and feel good about it, and jump
Yeah,
forward.
Trek was always close, right? Like TNG, obviously Troy was an outlier, but Crusher was more dialed in. DS9, we're on different territory here. We've got more female characters are characters. No one's really eye candy except for some of Quark's ladies, and they're kind of designed to be that way. And they're used in that way. And then in Voyager, we kind of get all the way past it, right? And yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that Jerry Taylor's influence probably on the show grew as those changes happened, and the show was able to have kind of a better outreach to its female fans as a consequence. And yeah, I think you're correct to say like Jerry Taylor, even outside of Voyager, but everywhere else she had been in the franchise, it was improved as a consequence of her presence. Maybe don't put her in charge. That was not a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess she earned a shot at doing it by then, and maybe that was a bit of a Peter Principle moment for her. But still, you can't deny what she brought to the franchise, and she'll be missed. One guy who's still with us is also on this, Ira Stephen Bear, and I want to talk about him for a little bit because that name is real fucking important to Deep Space Nine. We talked a little bit about it, but he starts coming into his own in season 2. And that's important because this becomes his baby literally in season 3. And he becomes executive producer. He becomes, I think, one of the sole credited writers in the entirety of season 7. This man writes 54 episodes of DS9 ultimately. Yeah, that's a lot. We talk a lot about Ron Moore, but this guy's probably more important to what DS9 is.
It's a lot of writing, and especially if the quality is held up. Doing this podcast with you has shown me that like show business is hard.
Oh yeah.
You've got some products you're really proud of, and you've got some episodes you're like, that wasn't my favorite. I wouldn't put that in a best of reel. And that's you and me just talking out of our ass on a Friday night. Like that's zero pen to paper. That's no talk with wardrobe or building sets or whatever else. Like these guys, the breakneck speeds they're putting these episodes out, I can appreciate, I can understand the real stinkers as they get out, because maybe your dog just died and your wife's pregnant and you missed the payment because whatever, and the end result is you get a bad episode.
Right.
If you're out there putting out 20 some episodes that you wrote yourself and they're all good, I don't know. That guy must be single and not going out on the weekends.
But 20 some is one thing. 53?
53 what?
50. He wrote 53 episodes of DS9.
Oh, I thought you meant all in season 7. Like, there's no way.
Oh yeah, and then wrote most of season 7 as part of that 53. So, and he had hands on it with him through it. But I'm looking through this list. I'm like, holy shit, what didn't he write in season 7? Holy crap! And yeah, some of the best episodes of the whole series have his fingerprints on it, and the whole show. He's the showrunner from season 3 on, as you would call it, executive producer.
You're sitting there with Rick Berman. Because, there's got to be a big pay bump if you become the showrunner, right? You're executive producer.
Don't do it for nothing.
Maybe.
Not nothing. Maybe not as much as someone else, but not nothing.
And that's the thing. Like, you start talking about working in the nerd field you're interested in. Like, what's this guy's pedigree prior to DS9? Was he involved in TNG? Did he come in fresh? Did he start as a PA on DS9 and work his way up? Because you get these guys that are keeners, the Terry Metallises, right? Who this is passion projects. Probably snag them pretty cheap. And I would have to think, if I'm Rick Berman and it's like, all right, here's this dude who is talking to me about the show that I'm producing with details and passion that I don't even have, because I've become creatively bankrupt over the course of all of this, which obviously didn't really set until Enterprise. But cool, man. You want to be in charge? That's a great idea. What if you were in charge? You can enact that, and you're going to make $10 more an hour.
Well, apparently this really has to do with Michael Piller, because Michael Piller brought him in when he was working on TNG as one of the executive producers there. We all forget that he's a co-creator of TNG.
Who?
Piller. And
I thought you meant Bear.
Piller became executive producer and showrunner for TNG, and a lot of the writers didn't like him. And so Ira Steven Behr was his hired gun to be the writer's boss, to kind of put them in line and start writing stories the way that he wanted them written, which, of course, we're talking about season 3 of TNG. Guess what? Golly gee willikers, that's when the show's writing got a lot better. What is that a coincidence? I think not. And it makes a lot of sense that as Pillar goes to make his own show, he'd probably bring his hired gun along with him, particularly somebody who obviously has his creative vibe. And so that leads to him getting in DS9. It leads to him having a huge hand in the creation of DS9. And ultimately, when Pillar's like, I kind of want to do something else, I'm going to do this Voyager thing as a network show. We're going to really try and trek to the next level, have it be a network angle for UPN. Ira, why don't you handle the syndicated nonsense we're still doing? There it is, right? You can see how it all happened. And suddenly this guy who, wasn't there at the beginning kind of got brought in, and he was the made man of one of the primary names on the show, and he just turns that into a career all on its own. And apparently afterwards, he wrote on a show I know a lot of people like, but I have no experience with, Dark Angel from Fox.
Yeah.
It had young Jessica Alba in it, I believe. But not much else notable aside from that. So this is his thing. Trek is his thing.
Well, it's enough to sustain him through the ages.
Well, speaking of being sustained through the ages, this episode rules. It is, in every way of its construction, demonstrating a level of maturity and confidence that I'm not used to watching in a Star Trek season. I forgot what it felt like to watch this. I've seen this episode a million times. From this point forward, by the way, Peter, I've watched and rewatched these episodes so often. None of it's going to surprise me, except just maybe I'm going to be focusing more on small details that might have come out when we were talking about In the Hands of the Prophets, and I was really focused on the dialogue of Vedic Win, for example. But what did I guess the part I'm getting to there in terms of what was rewarding to me, despite the fact I've rewatched this episode 5 or 6 times in my life, is just the shift from season 1 to season 2 and how they are immediately in gear with, we are the new dramatic, serious, we're shooting this like we're going for awards level Star Trek.
You're talking production level?
I'm talking just effort. Like, everybody is dialed in. Performances are all good across the board. There is a lot of variety in camera position and trying to do interesting things and just keep the whole frame interesting, even though it's in standard def.
Sorry, you said this is the same year that TNG's in season 6 or season
7? Season 7.
All right, so they're on the downslide.
Well, they're getting ready to do movies. I mean,
Right,
the popularity is high, and it was actually season 7 that got the Emmy nomination for TNG. Yeah, more high concept. I think I understand why critics really liked it.
I think sometimes too, it's just throw awards in the trash. Especially modern day, but talking about why season 7 TNG got the awards, I think a lot of it's just inertia and people are finally paying attention, and maybe there's stuff that season 5 and season 6 did that season 7 gets credit for. But
yeah, there's a lot to that, and awards in particular.
And also throw all the awards in the trash because Better Call Saul got nothing.
That's true. Not even once.
And
it's
if you
crazy.
need empirical data as to why awards do not matter and they are trash, it is right there in Better Call Saul. I watched the intro, the cold opener 2, maybe 3 times.
Oh yeah.
Quark
Tons.
and Odo, who came into the show perfect, not only as individual portrayals of their characters, play off each other so well that even a dog shit episode like Move Along Home felt great in the moments that they're focused on.
Right.
But talking about this clarifying lens that's been placed over these characters, Quark, who came in very jokey, I feel like, and somehow Armin Shimmerman clawed greatness. I don't know. He was still written well, but I think it was kind of like what Picardo did, which was like, I'm going to take this character for more than it's worth, and I'm
Right.
going to
I'm gonna
uplift this.
elevate it. Yeah, I'm gonna elevate it.
I'm going to uplift it, and I'm going to force the attention to come on to me. This, they're paying him respect right out of the gate. He has just the body language that this guy commands through all the fucking makeup. Like, it's just,
Again, right? It was striking even in season 1. And the makeup changed a little bit, both on him and on Kira.
noticeably Odo too.
Yeah, and Odo as well. Like they refined everyone's look.
Odo's easy to buy because this is a guy that's manufacturing his own appearance, and it makes sense that it would go through revisions as he got better or cared less or whatever the fuck's going on with him.
Oh, absolutely.
What did they change on Kira?
The nose ridges aren't as pronounced. They're a little softer. It's just I think they knew they had her in close up so much that they decided they'd rather Nana Visitor's natural appearance shine through a bit more than the alien makeup.
It's known that, as Bajoran women age, the cartilage in their nose begins to degrade a little bit, and that's how you can really tell the true age of a Bajoran woman is how sharp her ridges are. You want to get them while they're in that cheese grater phase, by the way.
Hey, baby, why don't you go ahead and just bring that over to this Gouda? We'll make some sandwiches tonight.
Honey, is my nose looking soft? But he kills it in the scene with Odo. They open him up. Odo's incredibly suspicious because Quark has given him great information on a big bust. Odo can't wrap his mind around it because he is not that complex of a person yet. And basically, the way they're rolling it out here is that this is just a Kingslayer move on Quark's behalf to confuse his opponent with some three-dimensional warfare. So you get this well-intentioned, mature, almost like a big brother, kind of like, I can tell it's going to be a while. I've decided you and I are going to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
I gave you this thing as a peace offering. It's going to be you and me working on the same side. I see that it's going to take a while for this to really settle in with you, but I have the patience to see this friendship through. Now, if you'll excuse me, whatever height disadvantage gremlin moment I'm having here, I'm going to go up the stairs where there is a hot bird lady and I'm going to put on my James Bond 007 face. And all of a sudden...
So first and foremost, I really appreciated that he took command of the relationship in that way because Odo, just like you said, isn't complex enough of a person yet. And he doesn't understand the game that's being played on him. And immediately, this is camera shot number 1 that I thought was just very inventive, right? Armin Shinnerman, very small, hot bird lady, very tall. So what do we do? How do we shoot this in a way that doesn't emphasize their difference or make it so that it's a visual gag if we're not intending it? We're going to have Armin Shimmerman come up as Quark through the staircase and kind of rest up against the staircase, and then she will be obligated, because she's not come up all the way the stairs, to come down, so that their natural height difference, which we can probably infer through this, suddenly is neutralized by our decision of how we're placing our actors. And then we're going to have the camera actually in tight to Quark, and we're really not going to have her in frame when he's talking, so we're getting a lot of his reaction. And like you said, suddenly a very smooth, very debonair, very I've definitely fucked this lady before and I really wish I could do it again right now vibe starts to come off, and it's very different from anything we've seen before in Star Trek. And I'm like, oh, yes.
None of it's played for laughs. Like, he is a smooth operator who could very well be the star main character right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no jokes. In fact, he's so smooth, it comes off as villainous without being bad or ill-intended. Like he's just got this level of fucking gangster crime boss competency right here. And he's effectively doing a favor, which is, hey, here's this piece of shit that I came here with. A janitor gave me on Cardassia 4. And he's like, it's a fucking earring. Who cares? And she's like, well, whatever. It's a big deal earring. Show it to somebody. Is there somebody on the station that can handle it? Of course, I can. I'm the fucking man. Give me that thing. And just a great setup
Yeah,
And
he gives her a kiss on the way out.
he sticks
Like,
his finger in her fucking he finger bangs her drink.
this is the first of our recurring characters to show up. Like Bird Lady, War Hero, out of nowhere, here's Frank Langalia. Like all these guys show up multiple times.
Franklin Gallia was a real like.
Oh yeah,
like, is that
What the
Dooku? Is that
It's like-
Christopher Lee? Nope, that's
it's
Franklin Gallia.
Frost Nixon. It's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, I'm sorry, sir. Do you realize you're on Star Trek?
Did you get turned around on the Paramount lot? Where are you supposed to be?
What movie are you supposed to getting an Academy Award in right now? Like you're here instead. We'll get to that. So he gets the earring. He's like, I'm going to give this to Kira. Goes to Kira's quarters, and we get the second banger scene before the credits. Where he comes in. He's like, I'm just going to spend most of this aggressively flirting with Kira now because that's apparently the energy I'm in today. I mean, Quark's in his mad flirtation phase.
In Ferengi biology, it's actually the males that go through heat.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. Like, Bird Lady wasn't enough. I need the most aggressive terrorist on the station. And Kira always responding to flirtation with aggression,
Violence.
which is probably misinterpreted as flirtation by most and is flirtation for some, eventually threatens Quark with physical violence when he won't get to the point. And he eventually does. Says, I got this. This is where I got it from. This is all the information I have. He is truthful. The audience knows he's truthful. And she just leaves. And he's actually very angry about the fact he did not get thanked.
The only way that we could have improved this scene would have been him just being like, well, since I'm here, I might as well put this listening device in.
Just like, right here, wherever this religious thing is, you ain't moving that. I'm gonna put that right there. Like,
all right.
Now we're out of here. You got any security things I can steal for my jump tour?
You got any?
I need some fresh ones.
You got any
my batteries are dead.
Cologne samplers here I could take? What's Drakkar Nor going to open for me today? Flip back to God. What was the lowest stakes Enterprise opener we had?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's a lot of low stakes Enterprise openers.
I think it had something to do with cheese and Porthos, maybe. I don't know. Voyager certainly had a lot of low energy bullshit nonsense versus this fucking thing where you just had 3 murder scenes in a row. Killed.
The 3 best scenes in probably more than 3 dozen episodes of Star Trek we've been forced to watch in our lives happened in a row.
All 3 of them involved Quark. Go figure. Did they change the intro? The wormhole, I think, maybe looked a little nicer.
No, it seemed the same. Music was the same. I don't think they changed it until season 3.
Interesting. What's that when Defiant shows up?
That is correct. Oh, so the next scene, speaking of bangers, we get more good Jake Sisko, Ben Sisko action. So the best father-son relationship we've seen in this franchise takes another turn. Of course, Jake looking a little older, but he's more of a, not so much a kid actor as a young adult actor now. He's in that clear teen phase. And he's excited because he's got a date. Of course, Ben Sisko thinks he's asking for advice on how to ask a girl out. Apparently a pretty Bajoran girl. But he's like, no, Dad, I'm sorry. You already raised me with enough game that I got her to say yes. So that's part's done. Thank you for that, by the way. I'm actually here for advice about where to take her. Can we go to the illegal illicit fuck dens? He's like, no, you can't do that. That will not be allowed. And he's like, oh, but how about we take him back to my bedroom? Like, no, we're not doing that either. You're going to go and have appropriate separated closeness in public while watching the wormhole. That's how you're going to date.
Watching public. Oh, Dad, perfect. I'll take her to the voyeur vent. We can have sex next to people eating industrial plastic.
They won't even know. They won't look left.
They'll be like, the food doesn't smell as bad as it normally does. What is that?
he's in the middle of this when Kira runs up and says, "Commander, I need to speak to you." And there's the second of my favorite camera maneuvers here. We cut back to the conversation
It's gonna
between
be a
Jake.
long episode, Joe.
It is. Jake and Ben Sisko talking, where Jake is like, I see you're not ready to have this conversation. And Ben's like, I'm not ready. I was like, hold on a second. And as they're still continuing to have this father-son moment, Kira suddenly starts doing that thing with her eyes of like looking back and forth and then like going back a little bit because she's still in focus of like, fuck. Like I'm in the middle of something and I'm not supposed to be here. It's like, this is the sort of detail where before they wouldn't bother, right? Like they would not bother to put a specifically centered the camera so her nonverbal reaction to walking in on a family discussion wasn't obvious to the audience, but they make a point of doing it here.
I'm about to make a terrorist ask, and I cannot jump into that because he is clearly in dad mode, and I know if I step wrong into this, it's going to be a no. So I'm going to have to
I have a real spicy question. I got to get you in the right mood.
Deal with him getting a fucking strudel and some coffee.
Very slowly. Like,
very
all right,
slowly.
I have my breakfast now. Major, what did you want? I need a runabout. What for? You don't want to ask that question. Too late. I've asked that question. Like,
what's the worst it could be? I want to go kill Cardassians, and reason why is gonna help you. So this is a hard question. You ready to get court-martialed, Ben? You ready for an act of war? You haven't even clocked in yet.
It's like, you imagine like, Major, I haven't even had one bite of my pastry yet, and you're asking if you can go run black ops into an illegal prison site to rescue people who shouldn't be captured across enemy lines and you want to do it in my ship, in my equipment. You want
my
USA
Winnebago
printed on this. Yeah. Like,
well, listen, Sisko needs a learning. Here's his growth point on this is to start asking, before you ask me your first question for the day, I'm going to ask you, will this situation require tactical turtlenecks?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how illegal an act are you about to suggest to me as a command directive?
Are we going to be scratching the serial numbers off of phasers?
Exactly how many people are going to wind up murdered at the end of this episode? Kira, if it's more than 5, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah. 5 is the most we're willing to do, and that's only because when those disco hooker boot aliens showed up in the most dangerous game, that's what I let O'Brien get away with.
I've set a limit that I have to hold everybody else to. So I another improved character here is Sisko. In his very first scene, both with Jake and then with Kira, we see it. The guy is just much sharper. He has a number of great moments throughout this episode where he's really starting to fill that role of capable Starfleet commander, captain figure that you crave when you're watching Star Trek. And he goes from maybe someone who's a bit erratic, a bit bothered by his job, a bit, I don't really want to be here today, to a little bit more, no, actually, he's supposed to be here. We can see why he got assigned. We've tightened it up and given Avery Brooks a little bit more direction, and he's good to go.
Not only assigned, but retained,
Yeah.
And that should have been a concern for Starfleet. Was like, hey, this place used to be, and I forget who mentioned it. This is
it was
not
Picard.
A Bucky. No, I know it's Picard. I'm talking about out of the trauma support group. This is not a Space Bucky's. Space Bucky's are far too clean with beautiful bathrooms and pretty solid
Space
brisket.
Flying. Space Flying J seems more appropriate.
Space Flying J. And before you cut me off, the brisket at Bucky's is legit.
Have we been
gas station brisket, and it was real good. My wife enjoyed it too. Not to drag her through the mud on the internet, but
I'm pretty sure you and I have been very firmly pro Bucky's on this program.
I know, but listen, I wouldn't have thought that fucking barbecue out of a gas station, but albeit a gas station the size of a Walmart.
It's the limited menu principle. It's the actual answer. They do 3 things.
Do it well, yeah.
Yeah, just here's brisket, here's pork, here's sausage. They're all good. Please have some. And it's like, yep, you nailed it, boys.
No good brisket, no good pork, no good sausage.
No. Just a crappy Subway, if you're lucky. Maybe a Cinnabon.
And that's the stink of a flying J's, which is what that Deep Space Nine is. But when it started as just a flying J out in middle of nowhere on the edge of nowhere, Sisko was a fine choice. Deep Space Nine is now the doorway to the Gamma Quadrant. You've got a guy stationed there who, and maybe that's a big part of it too. I wonder if that gets touched on, like Starfleet, like, we wanted to replace you. Unfortunately, you're the fucking prophet or whatever.
Yeah.
And
you integrated yourself with their religion, so that's tough now.
Our focus groups were not too hot on swapping you out for new guy, so we've had to keep you. But he is endorsed by Starfleet nonetheless. So I'd say it's a mutual lock-in on both sides. And he is not as weird and jilted and theater.
Yeah, he got some advice around those lines. Like, I think Terry Farrell finally got good writing, got good direction, knows who Dax is supposed to be. And in the same way, it's like, Avery, it's, there's a lot here we like, but you're too extra. You need to be a little tighter, a little more dialed in. And we see that actually with a lot of the performances in this episode. No one's too big, and maybe that was the one criticism we could take of season one's acting generally, even Kira. Way too big sometimes. You're on television, okay? You actually want to be small. The camera can pick up small. Franklin Golub proves that pretty well in this episode, and it can be very powerful. Just, you're having a conversation with somebody. You don't need to be speaking to someone 5 rows back. All right, that's not the mission. And some of these guys might not have been as used to that as they are now. So, when you think about it, they shot all of season 1 before they could really get feedback about what they made. Right? Like, you just over and over and over again, you're just rolling these episodes out. And after the season break, after you see the reaction, after you focus group it, after you think about it, we're in a better spot. The ask that Kira makes, of course, is that this earring belongs to the most famous Bajoran resistance member. So the hero,
Johnny Appleseed of terrorists.
Yes, Lee Nallis. And Lee Nallis is been thought dead for years, but apparently whatever battle he fought against the Cardassians where they thought he died, his body was never recovered, and this earring is legit. His skin cells were on it. They were on there recently. So he is alive, and this is his earring. And her ask is simple. I want to run about. I want to go across the border. I want to fucking rescue him. That's what I want to do. And the Bajoran government doesn't want me to. And I say, fuck it, we got to, because Bajoran's government is falling apart. And that's kind of the real plot of the episode.
And that's the concern that was lodged initially. Kira didn't believe in it.
Literally in the first episode, in Emissary.
Quark didn't believe in it. The provisional government was a house of cards that everybody saw preparing to topple. And I think absolutely that Kai Opaka's loss probably destabilized that heavily when you've got her replacements trying to fucking gank each other.
You're right. And that just happened. So that's demonstrates the underlying religious tension, no doubt. And we knew from dialogue that Kai Opaka was the one thing that kept Bajor together during the occupation. That was actually something that, now having been deprived of it, is why she ended up on the runabout to begin with, that put her on planet Mike Emintrout. So, yeah, this all makes sense. This tracks with the continuity we've been given.
I like that for season 2, all of a sudden the runabouts become powerhouses. They go from being
Space Winnebagos,
golf carts,
yeah,
to now, hey, this thing can effectively conduct raids on Cardassian core system prison planets. Okay, well, I'll think about your offer. Great job framing this argument as something that I need to put serious consideration into, because I need help accomplishing my mission. And I see that your joke government is not going to make it any easier on me. And that's when he has his little chat with Dax.
Yeah, there's a brief interlude with the graffiti of the circle.
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Apparently, there's so little crime on the station these days that a little bit of graffiti is a fucking 5-alarm fire.
My favorite. You're going to want to come down here and see this. Just tell me, O'Brien, what is it?
Brian, what is it? Someone graffitied. Okay, I'll be right there. Like,
hey, take a picture of it with your tricorder and send it to mine. How about that? I'm not going to the fucking poop processing substation 2 to see a fucking squiggle on the wall, asshole.
oh no, I know you're not as busy right now because Worf isn't here to assault people, and then you don't arrest him. But you know, is really some graffiti the biggest thing happening? Don't you have drunks or something? They're worse.
Don't you have assassination attempts that you have not really prohibited any of? I mean,
there was a bombing. The school blew up.
The school blew up. The nice Cardassian fake clerk got stabbed in the kidney. Other archbishop guy got shot at. That was you're getting back. Listen, you're a great detective. Not real good on the physical stuff.
Not a good body man.
Can't you like fucking throw your hand, like rocket punch your hand like a mud ball or something?
You need to be slicker with your using of this whole your goo thing as an offensive weapon, Odo.
Can he control parts of his body that have been separated? Could he have was it Thing or It from the Addams Family that's the walking hand?
It.
Can he It?
No, Thing. It is Thing. Its cousin It is the hairy one, and then it's
I mean, he could be both.
Thing.
I'm just saying. Can he separate his body and have remote control?
God, I don't know if they ever specifically do that. I think he's got to remain kind of in contact with it.
So, I'm assuming that the Bajorans or Cardassians or whoever researched him, did the halving exercise to see, at what point can you split him in half and get more?
Oh, you'll hear all about the experiments that were done to him. Don't you worry.
As he honored those people by stealing their haircuts. So we're going to call this not cult. We're going to call this little Ku Klux Klan or whatever the fuck it is. We're going to call it Bajora Firma after our friend Peter Weller out of season 4.
Terra Prime. So we call it Bajor Prime.
Oh, Terra Prime, or no. Terra Firma was Mass Effect.
Correct.
Which it's all the same thing. So I'm still kind of right. We'll call it Bajor Prime.
Yeah, we'll call it Bajor Prime. So Bajor Prime lays down some
I don't like Bajor Prime because now it sounds like it's a Transformers reference. We're sticking with Bajora Firma.
Okay. And after that is when
Bajor Prime is Optimus's redneck cousin. his Azeroth racist. Optimus lived in the nice part of town, which is Cybertron. Bajora.
Stop while you're ahead, Peter. No one knows Transformers references.
What? Well, I'm sorry, what? Say that again?
No one knows Transformers references.
Our fan base, where I am assaulted on a daily basis with a deluge of 80s nonsense, obscure TV.
It's very true. The Discord is thick with just conversations that just go way off topic.
There's a reason why there's a not Trek room in there. All right.
True. And thank you everyone for following rules when it comes to that, by the way. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
So, if you want in the Discord, DM me on Twitter at VeedYourPlease, or email me at VeedYourPlease@gmail.com. Happy to get you in. So
they're not happy about the spray paint. This is a big deal.
Big deal.
Has there been okay. Give me the dialogue line there real quick of man, I thought we were past all this when, they tried to lynch you, Odo, and I looked the other fucking way. When Mr. Evil Eyes, the most evil looking person who's ever been in Star Trek without makeup on.
Yeah. The dude who seems so evil, we thought he was Ray Wise, and we were surprised when he wasn't.
I thought he was just going to be fucking Satan. And I was like,
wow. Like Ray Wise.
And they wanted to lynch him, and he looked the other way and just let it all go. That would have been a cool callback, and I hope at some point they kind of touch base on this racist ass shit is out there. And, you know, it makes sense. Like, you've just been occupied. The one guy who was like, surprised I'm still a terrorist, the one who wanted to come clean and was going to dirty bomb the wormhole to make no one care about Bajor anymore. Like, Bajor's just, some Bajorans just want to be left the fuck alone. And unfortunately for Bajor, that camp of people that want to be left the fuck alone, their head, what are we calling it? Bajora Firma ruling council is way better at leadership than the provisional government.
As you would expect, a bunch of people who's, organize themselves as underground paramilitaries would be, especially against an ineffective government, right?
Yes.
Like, this is a population that was primed to be able to do this. This isn't a shock. So, with all of this in mind, Sisko has Dax come to his office and they have a discussion about what to do. And this is where the new and improved characterization of Dax makes her appearance. Again, this is someone who's a bit impish, a bit unconcerned with her career. Someone who now is more credible as someone who has a lot of wisdom. That could be someone who's a kind of a almost peer, if not above peer counselor to her own commanding officer and best friend from a prior lifetime. Like, suddenly all of these things are making sense in the performance. She is not the same person, but she is the same person. She is in Starfleet and his subordinate, but also somebody who's lived more life than him. And they respect
She
each
likes
other.
baseball, but she doesn't love baseball.
And Curzon was the person who liked baseball, and not as much as he let on to him. And she's willing to be more honest about it because she's got more separation.
Mm-hmm.
It all starts to make sense. And they start to talk about the mission of, well, we're really here to make sure Bajor gets into the Federation, and suddenly that's really hard. Because it turns out these guys are they're tough to manage. They're very emotional, they're very spiritual. They lost their pope. Kind of my fault. I'm also their Jesus.
Yeah.
And the government's not stable. And they were also all terrorists 10 minutes ago. So they might throw hands soon. And it might be over religion. And that's going to not be good. And we got to prevent all that from happening, or I'm going to get super fired. And that's when Dax says, well, why don't you just go ahead and give Kira the runabout then? And he's like, I see. She told everyone. Great.
That was a great line. Because O'Brien intimates that he knows, and he's been working on the way to get the runabout in there. And he's like, does anybody not know what's going on? Well, I don't think she told Quark. Well, as far as Quark's concerned, she's going to United Dairy Farmers to go get some strawberry ice cream.
Right? Like, can we have some plausible deniability on the station? I get why O'Brien is into this. He's like, I understand that there's an opportunity to kill Cardassians, and I'm on it. Like, I'm going to go personally to make sure I get to shoot them. He's horny to kill Cardassians, as always.
So Sisko goes to Kira's quarters with O'Brien, who's already wearing civilian clothing, as like, cool. You're going to go, and I'm going to give you this guy, who turns out he's a fucking murderer, and that's probably going to play out well for you. I'm not putting him on you as a leash. I'm not saying this has to be clean and I want it done by the book. It's just, I don't want you to die. And this isn't Voyager. We can't just throw fucking shuttle pods away left and right. So I need this runabout back. The last one killed the Pope. So,
right, we're still on the hook for that.
You're taking this dude with you. And off you guys go. She's like, all right, great. There we go. And they go to leave, and they're releasing the docking clamps. And she goes, Chief, I want to make something clear now that we're floating off into space. We get this guy back, or we don't come back. And O'Brien's like, gotcha. And I'm like, excuse me, motherfucker. Do you not have a wife and child?
You agree to that very easily.
I get, oh my God, it's the Borg. And if we don't stop them here, they're going to turn everybody I know and love in the entire galaxy into a space zombie. This is terrible. This is like literally cancer of the race, and my life is worth sacrificing to stop this thing. Or, oh God, they're sending back a time missile, and it's going to turn Earth into soup of snot. It's going to destroy, that thing with Q and the all good things. Like, my life might be worth sacrificing to save all of humanity. That's some Bajoran POW that has nothing to do with Earth or your wife and child. And there's zero hesitation for this guy to be like, yeah, man, ride or die. Let's go. Fucking A.
I mean, I like the explanation we're giving, which is like, listen, you already told me you're going to go kill Cardassians. You don't need to sell it on me any harder than that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here because I don't like them. And I don't get a lot of opportunities to go be violent towards people I don't like. I'm in the Federation, right? I'm a Starfleet officer. I get to go on a black ops mission with a Bajoran terrorists with to shoot up a bunch of people I don't like as a matter of course. Let's go.
Kira, there's
Right?
something wrong with me, and I'm gonna.
I have
tell
a
you
wife and kids because I have to get the murder out of me on the Cardassians.
You remember we got possessed by the telepathic orbs, and you and I were on the wrong side, and I saw you being an evil bitch, and I just been masturbating furiously ever since thinking about that part of you. And if this gives me even a hint of that, I'm down. Also, you might not know, but Julian Bashir, who does not get to be in this episode whatsoever, has been giving me a lot of tranquilizers because my hands, they get real shaky if it's been more than 2 weeks since I've wrapped them around a Cardassian's throat and crushed his windpipe. So Daddy needs his fix. Put on tight pants. And how about this? Let's sweeten the deal and really make it worth my time. Why don't we do that Janeway, you pretend you're a hooker thing, and I'll be your Irish pimp.
It is amazing how much more chemistry he has with Kira versus the person playing his wife. Like,
well, I don't see Kiko O'Brien pretending to be a murder hooker.
I love that
too.
Get yourself a girl who will pretend to be a murder hooker. Like, that's how you know.
They fly out to this prison camp. They go, all right, we're going to have to, the shields and plot. We can't just beam them out of there, all the people. And there's a lot. There's more than just the one guy. And we're reasonable people. We're not going to leave the rest of the prisoners there to die. Let's land the runabout on the surface. They're not going to ever see us coming because these guys are idiots, apparently. And then you and I, we're going to walk up to the front door of the prison.
It apparently on a planet full of rocks.
Planet Southern California rock quarry.
Mm-hmm.
And God, how are we going to get him to put the shield down? We'll act like we're a door-to-door salesman of booty. We're going to roll up there like Mormons asking if they've heard the good word. And I'm going to try and sell you to the first guard I come to. And we're going to bet that these guys here are just the fucking stupidest Cardassians in all of the Cardassian Empire. That's why they're working on this.
But I just love that the first Cardassian that they run into is Silik. It's played by the same guy. Yeah, I know it's played by John Hurd, I believe. But yeah, that's Silik.
Huh.
John Fleck. Yeah, same guy. And also, he was the used car salesman from Alice, obviously, with the amazing makeup. But
yeah, he was. Yeah.
Silik.
Well, it doesn't go well for him.
All no, right. So it does not. He does not get to purchase from the Mormons.
Add that to basic training for Cardassia. If while working at a prison camp, a human and a Bajoran come up and try to market sex to you, do not turn the force field off.
It's like, you may be wondering why we have a specific rule about this.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, everything that's in this textbook has actually happened.
It's all there for a reason. It's like any good corporate
handbook. It's like Federation Tricks 101. It's just like, beware of the female officer hooker.
Yes. The Federation and their sexual liberation, well known for their sexy tricks. Luckily, everybody at this prison camp is out in the rock yard banging rocks this day, so they don't have to
in their loincloths. Like it's a bit of a mess production wise. What is these guys are supposed to be doing?
I think it's cool they're able to fit this action sequence in to an otherwise very political station based thing. Like, this episode felt really long, and it does a lot, and it does all of it well. So they jailbreak him. Very quickly we find out that this guy, Liam Lee or whatever his name is not a gun-ho murder terrorist. He is really pumping the brakes on this rescue operation. People are sacrificing their lives. He is not thrilled about it, and he is very reluctant. Again, as mentioned before, for dressing in civilian clothes and doing the dirtiest of dirty things right now that is very clearly a declaration of war. They're using Federation phasers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the M16's all over the place. There's no plausible deniability on this one.
Like,
Which
why?
Dax brings up in their conversation, by the way, is to say, you probably don't need plausible deniability because our treaty with them mandates that they don't have these prisoners. So if, Kira manages to get them home, that's prima facie evidence that they lied to us. So they're the ones that are in trouble.
Great they gave Dax that line, by the way. I'm glad that she's been able to mature from somebody who should have been hooking space garbage up to the flagship's warp core to pretty sound political advice from the former diplomat lifestyle, right?
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
They got to leave people behind who stay back to kill more Cardassians while they escape. Luckily, those guys get to come back because once they're back, no, Bashir is in this because he's treating the guy's wounds.
Yeah, he does some doctor stuff. He gets the crusher role for this one. Here's 2 minutes of you waving a thing.
Blinky lights to fix to lots of that because he gets to heal Quark too. God, we got a lot to go through. It's 4 minutes. We got to talk fast.
This will just be an hour and a half episode. It's fine.
Kira gets back. They got old Gul Dukat on the horn. Hey, wow. Turns out we had stuff we shouldn't have, and we are so sorry, and we're letting them all go. And the guy that's in charge, he's going to get slapped on the wrist so hard. It's going to sting for at least 12 seconds. And, thank you for bringing this to our attention. And hopefully this proves that we're just bros who are not schlepping chemical weapons around in transports, calling it milk. See you guys later. Peace.
Yeah, it's fair. It stuns Kira. She doesn't even know what to say. She's very quiet. And Sisko's like, hey, great job. He's like, he's up to something. Like, yep, he sure is. Anyway, though, you did great. Like, so he totally is up to something, but you still pulled off the op. You rescued all of the hostages and got back in one piece. So high fives all around here.
Let me throw some conjecture out there. It's hokey ass circumstances that this prison planet somehow smuggled this guy's earring out. The fact they the Cardassians even let these guys have their earrings, which seems ridiculous to me. The earring comes back to Deep Space Nine on the thinnest of plot bridges because a bird lady had it. They go in, everybody's out in the yard, they rescue everybody. They get out. This guy's reluctant as fuck. They let the rest of the people go, despite the fact that Cardassians died. And you get this real fishy apology. Like, with the reservations this guy has and the relative ease that they just pulled this massive black off up in like 15 minutes, like, there's no suspicion of like, hey, was this too easy? Did they do that Manchurian Candidate episode where Geordi's visor makes him go crazy and like supposed to assassinate people on behalf of the Romulans? Like, yeah, they know about like brainwashing and like whatever. Like, it really seems to me like maybe they've done a number on this guy and they're releasing him back into Bajoran society so like he can have a meltdown and just demoralize the shit out of people, because they have to also know it's a flimsy fucking story this guy's on. So I don't know if it's stuff they're going to really touch. I don't want you to comment on it one way or another, but I'm just saying I see some real red flags here that the rest of the people don't seem to care about.
So, as you know, Julian treats everyone's injuries, and Lee, who's the guy's name again, he's kind of taken aback by it all. You know, this is not news to him that the Bajorans succeeded in their civil conflict against the Cardassians. He didn't know. He was in a prison planet. And now he's here, and he's been rescued, and Bajor is governing itself, and he's happy for that, and also he's getting a lot of stares. Because basically the Steve Rogers of Bajor is alive and well and on the station and just hanging out. And the locals are just drawn to him like he's Elvis. Not just the locals. We get a visit from a local politician. A Minister Jarrow makes an appearance on the station. And as we already mentioned, Minister Jarrow is played by Academy Award-winning actor Frank Langella, who did not get credited for this appearance or his other appearances as this character by his own request. As apparently he did the show because his kids were huge fans of Star Trek and he wanted to be in it, but did not want to be seen as if he was attempting to get undue credit for being in it and having some special credit for them having a successful actor such as himself. So he did it, and again, he's in 3 episodes with no credit.
That's 3 episodes total, or he got like 3 episodes in and was like, okay, hold on.
He's in this trilogy of episodes that we're going to be talking about, you know.
Well, that's a get, huh?
It is. Just because your kids like the show. Holy crap.
Good on them. Good on the, you know, good taste on these kids. What are they up to these days?
Well, Frank Ngal is just the better actor than, you know, you're going to have on this show. And so he just is able to come on and immediately have presence, right? He's a big imposing figure as an actor already.
Yeah.
You know,
you see Sisko sees him, goes, oh, fuck, is that Franklin God? Oh, fuck.
like, shit.
Who's he going to shoot at? What the hell is this?
You know, he's in this kind of like Neo-Nehru jacket style thing. And he's kind of got that same look. So, you know, there's a contemporary political figure from Pakistan that, you know, he's kind of purposely, I think, resembling.
This guy comes in and he is just radiating political leech energy right off the jump.
Absolutely.
What's that photo op? Don't mind if I do. Lee starts to give a heartfelt speech so he go back to his quarters and sleep. But this dude jumps in front and is like, look at me, I'm in the spotlight, vote for me. Lee does a great job really expressing that he is a fatigued and reluctant public figure. He does not want this. He does not thrive on this stuff. He has just gotten out of a camp where they move rocks to a place before they pick the rocks up and move them to another place. This guy wants a vacation. He wants to go to Disney World.
He also gets confronted by Sisko, where he goes to bring him to his quarters and says, hey, yeah, so happy we rescued you and all of your boys down on that planet. But my ulterior motive for allowing that shit to happen, despite the fact it might have involved me in an interstellar war and gotten me super fired, is that the only way I'm not going to get fired for blowing my assignment is if maybe you help me bring political unity to your people. Ooh, woo. Which he's very open about, which is probably the right call. Like, hey, man, I'm just going to drop this on you now so that you don't think I'm fucking lying to you or leading you on. Your people need you. And this is not the last time they're going to have this conversation in this episode.
Hey, I'm from Earth, and we got a saying around there, at least where I'm from. Freedom isn't free.
Cost folks like you and me.
Your freedom, in this case, comes with the stipulation that you're going to be in further political bondage. And I'm not letting you off the hook, and we're taking you from one unhappy situation for you to another. And I now want to put you in front of cameras and manipulate you into making my life easier. So,
a guy whose life is not about to be easy is Quark. He's having a conversation with Rom, where Rom's upset he doesn't get a bigger cut of the bar of profits.
Let's talk about this. 1-to-6 ratio. This isn't fair. Well, it's going to be 1-to-7 now. And then Rom gets up, very stank. Where are you going? I'm going to bed. Where I'm going to plan your next assassination via drone or blowing you out of a space lock. Because let's not forget,
it's exactly what he tried to do in the Nagus. You are correct.
Fratricide is on my resume, dear brother.
They're definitely already painting Rom as a more hapless character here, which is ultimately what they decided to do, making him more of a comic relief. But maybe he did try to assassinate Quark in season 1. Let us not forget.
Let's fix that from the Grand Nagus, all right? Quark, not willing to kill his own brother because he needs a good lackey, has started poisoning him with something that ultimately just makes his brother stupider and less murderous. And that's like a good, like, okay, I'm going to punish you and I'm going to cause brain damage, but not enough that you're useless. So I'm just going to increase your utility to me while de-escalating your murderous intents. And that'll be a happy medium for us. And I've decided this is your big brother. Go to bed. Go to bed.
And he goes to bed. And unfortunately that leaves Quark without someone else in the room when Eyes Wide Shut shows up to just induct him into the sex cult by branding his giant bulbous head.
They got a cigarette lighter from the car. That thing is glowing hot.
It cannot be comfortable, right? No. Like, oh boy.
They burn his dome, and then we get our second Julian Bashir. Maybe he isn't. He gets to do many flashy lights.
So as Julian tries to heal his burn wounds, it's Odo, Kira, Lee, and Sisko there as well. I love this scene also for Sisko specifically because at one point Quark starts to like, crack wise about how he's going to sue the provisional government as they go through like why this is happening and all the politics, and he just snaps off, "Not now, Quark!" Just like, shut the fuck up. Like, adults are talking. You get to be involved in the conversation, Quark, but not be shitty. All right, like, and just okay. We're gonna move on now. We're gonna go deal with this problem elsewhere.
Sisko is always happy to deny Quark his civil liberties and rights in the interest of Federation business, which is a fair trade-off when you're dealing with the guy who gets you sucked into deadly board games and other...
Yeah, like, he's the local criminal element, and you've decided you need that. You've
Yeah,
actually explicitly
but
said
you've
you need
also
that.
let him off the hook on a lot of attempted, in some cases, confirmed murders. So, like, yeah, you don't get to, like, press charges, but also you're not serving life in a Klingon
Your
cell.
nephew did. I didn't put him in prison. Like, you've gotten a lot of passes, so you're going to shut the fuck up right now, and you're just going to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm the one who gets to tell you that.
You remember you did work with... Okay, yeah. You've worked with a lot of space terrorists, Quark, and yet you're still walking around scot-free. Fucking deal with it, bitch.
You want to be renditioned into a Section 31 black site, you keep it fucking right in your mouth. Like, so, Lee has started to feel the pressure, and Sisko goes back to his quarters. Jake is upset because his date got canceled because of all of the underlying racism and tensions. He counsels them. It's another nice scene between the two of them. And as he deals with the length of his day and the stress that he's feeling, what should he find out is that Lee attempted to find his way onto a freighter, which wasn't going to come back from the Gamma Quadrant for 2 years. And yeah, he was trying to get the fuck out of here. And that's when we really get the best scene of the episode, and also my next favorite camera moment as well. And that is Lee and Sisko talking in the office, where Lee finally confesses he's not a hero. Not that he's a coward, not that he was somebody who didn't do anything, but he was just some guy who was a resistance fighter whose cell got wiped out. And as they fled for weeks in the woods, he happened to cross a lake where apparently fucking Cardassian super Hitler was taking a bath and, shot him while he was sitting there in his underwear and no way to defend himself. And the fact that he's killed super Hitler led to his legend growing exponentially despite his denials. And for him to be this mythical figure, this Johnny Appleseed, this super heroic Bajoran leader, and all he did was shoot a man in his underwear. And he was happy to bear that burden while it was necessary for Bajor to resist occupation, but they succeeded. And now he's like very explicit. I'm done. I want to fuck off. Like, I am tired of carrying this weight around of this thing that I'm not. I never was. And I don't know. I can't tell them that. So I need to go. It's very relatable. And this great camera move when he walks into focus, very tight focus, and Sisko is behind on his shoulder, out of focus, as if he's the angel on his shoulder, telling him of his continued moral obligation to be a figure, a political figure, a leadership figure, a stabilizing figure for his people, that they still need him. And it was so clever, right? Like, you've established it visually that's kind of what you're going for, and you kept Sisko out of focus in the background while this is happening. So we're only seeing the facial reactions of Lee, an actor, by the way, who's himself award-winning. He was Tony in West Side Story, the movie version. So this is another guy that's had a distinguished career, and you see as the scene goes on his resignation that Sisko's right. He does have this obligation. He can't run from it.
I like that there's been no real heroes that we've seen. The prison camp hero Cardassian turned out to be a fraud file clerk trying to pull some political stunts. You got this guy who does not live up to his legends. There was the other guy who tried bombing the wormhole, who was ultimately a piece of shit. And I think they do a nice job just basically reinforcing that, through this war, that these super stars just do not exist. Kira Nerys is like really the closest you get, and even her, like,
she's haunted. I mean, she's a real hero.
She's haunted, but also
damaged
too,
by it.
like, Gul Dukat left that ship behind, like basically saying she wasn't really that important in the overall scheme of things, which at the time we read as just a personal dig against her and like an insult. But it's entirely possible that, for as traumatized or whatever she is, like she wasn't really that important to the resistance, and that she was just a nameless face out there middle managing. So war is ugly, and heroes don't exist.
So after he is convinced that he must continue in this role by Sisko, who, of course, his incentives are, I need to get Bajoran in the Federation. I ain't getting Bajoran in the Federation if this country, if this planet doesn't keep its shit together. If Azeroth does not stay united. Apparently, we have a little bit of time has passed, and Lee and Jaro returned actually to Deep Space Nine together. And Lee has been feted on the surface of Bajor. He has been worshipped as a hero. He's been given a special rank called a Navarach. And apparently there's never been one before. It's a rank above all others. And he has been sent to DS9, though.
What's the correct Azeroth terminology for this? Is this epic rank?
He's a legendary.
Oh,
Yeah, he's got an orange drop. Yeah. And he's been sent back to DS9, though, because he's going to be the new Bajoran liaison officer. And that's our dun 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 at the end of the episode. Unfortunately, it seems that Kira has been reassigned, and the new guy is this Lee fella.
Keep him off Bajor so he cannot sway the hearts of the people. That's the read I got on that. Also, what was this Magister's name that came up?
Jaro.
His comments to Kira were interesting, which is like, officially, you're in deep shit. You basically went to the Cardassians and said, we want more war. And you're lucky that they said, pass.
Yeah, no, it was a great line.
Nice, but
great written line, and even better developed by him in the performance. Absolutely. You declared war on them and they declined.
And as a private citizen, you did a great job. Thank you. So real nice 1-2 punch there of like, I'm going to be a problem for you, but not yet.
I'm the kind of villain that is going to be someone that you understand,
Mm-hmm.
That's a good spot for your political villains to live, because if you make them too black-hatted, if you make it so that their motivations don't make any sense, then it's easy to root against them, and it kind of deflates some of the tension. But with somebody who's like, this guy isn't all bad, he's just working against our protagonist, so we don't like him.
When we watched Dax, I had a biggest complaint in that was the judge lady was like this kind-hearted kind of old lady who seemed ultimately like a good person, and like, where the fuck was she during the occupation that she survived this thing? Like, it didn't seem realistic. I like the fact that the provisional government, as Kira puts it, like, they're all shitbags, they're all opportunists, and it makes sense, right? Like, anybody who had the best intentions, like these paladins, probably would have self-sacrificed in some sort of terrorist act a long time ago, and that all the people who would rise to power in this provisional government are dirty, corrupt assholes who knew to keep their head down and how to play ball with the Cardassians and come out of the occupation well positioned to establish themselves, and that like it's a fucking Shark Tank of self-serving people, and that there's a belief that the general populace is going to see through it and see them for the war profiteers and borderline criminals that they are, and that this thing's going to fall apart.
Yeah, all of your servant leaders died or are so scarred they don't want to be leaders anymore. And that leaves only your mid-range strivers and
It's
people
like One World.
It's a lot like a lot of power structures.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's a lot about politics in general, of how it does not attract typically the best people. And they actually, I think they spend a decent amount of time on this topic over the course of DS9 and do different stories in that realm, where what different kinds of leadership looks like and how they're able to recruit different types of people into leadership that otherwise might disdain the responsibility. So all of that's in our future, though, because we have another episode to watch next week. Could you tell me, Peter, what it is?
All right, we're going to be going into season 2, episode 2, The Circle. This one's going to be written by Peter Allen Fields, directed by Corey Allen. The Sisko and Odo work to reveal the real force behind the Circle's coup.
Part 2 of 3. We're
I'm
starting with a
sorry.
3-part opener, man.
Yeah. What a way to enter a season, huh?
Yeah, they've never done anything like this before, where they start with a serialized story right away.
So yes, episode 2 will be Bajora Firma. Yeah.
The confidence that this took, by the way, I must say, the moxie is quite impressive. Like, it took 4 seasons before Enterprise felt comfortable doing continuity, really. And here we are, season 2 of DS9, and it's like, we're doing 3-part episode about Bajoran politics that you will be totally lost on if you did not watch season 1.
Where's their viewership at? You haven't
Good
really
question.
talked numbers about.
Yeah, typically I drag that out when we did rips, but this is syndicated. It's going to be really hard to know, because it's not so much views. It's purchasing power. It's people who want to buy the show. Different networks want to bring it on, and they're all showing it at different times. So it might be difficult to know. I'll try to see what I can find, but clearly there's enough here that people are into it. See everyone next week.